the secret recipe for highly successful marketing. So stay tuned.
Coming all the way from Las Vegas, Nevada, Jimena Cortes.
All right, and we're back. So welcome everyone to today's show, and I'm really excited to introduce my friend Tim. Now, Tim is going to be talking about secrets to highly successful marketing, and he is an expert marketer. One of the reasons I wanted to have him on the show is I actually met him in Australia when I was there about 2 months ago. So sad what's going on right now with all the fires. I'm glad I got to go before it got really bad. Fires had already started though when we were there. But anyways, I digress. Tim had a really great presentation that was really insightful, and he talked about how to differentiate yourself and be able to charge higher fees, but also provide higher value to your clients in a very competitive industry, which is for marketing agencies where it's very, very competitive in our space. And so Tim is just a wealth of knowledge for business and marketing. So I'm really excited to have him here to be able to pick his brain for the next hour. So be sure that you guys ask a lot of questions. If you're watching this on social media, go to marketingbehindcloseddoors.com/live. Because if you want to ask your questions live to Tim, well, we've got him here. He's a very busy guy. So we've got him here for the next hour. Be sure you ask your questions during the interview. So Tim, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's a real pleasure.
Thanks so much. So Tim, why don't we start out with you letting us know a little bit about your background and how you became the entrepreneur that you are today.
I became the entrepreneur I am today through sheer accident.
Don't we all, right?
Through a lot of trial and probably even more error, I got to where I am today. But
talk about that.
So a little bit about who I am for the people watching and listening. I have been helping entrepreneurs for a long time. I got into the agency game after failing at my .com, like terribly, badly failing. And I learned that through that failure, I learned that I needed to learn how to get a customer. And that became my driving force, was to learn how to get customers. And by doing that, all my former friends that their .coms didn't die back in the day, they started asking me, well, can you do that for us? Can you help us guide us in that, in how to get customers? Because back then people were just like, let me get eyeballs. And then all of a sudden they had to get money from real human beings and not just venture capitalists. So that became the beginning of my career that started off where I moved into building an agency of my own. And then that led me on to this wild ride of entrepreneurship for the last 2 decades.
Yeah, it's funny you say that about kind of starting out by accident, because that's how I started my agency too. I figured, the most valuable skill in the world that you could have are sales and marketing. So that's why I went that route, and just by throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what stuck is how I learned to do what I do today. So.
Exactly, and I think that's really the key element in the secret recipe to entrepreneurship, not just marketing, is that you have to be willing to see what sticks. You have to be willing to take a risk, to put something out in front of the market and see what they say to you.
Right, exactly. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the kind of stuff that you're working on right now as it relates to marketing?
As it relates to marketing is I invested in an agency a couple of years ago, and I was about to start a brand new agency. And in the process of starting that agency, I was talking with the a founder of that company I invested in, and that company's growing really fast right now. So it made better sense for me to invest even more into the company. So I just joined as the chief marketing officer of Contractor Dynamics. And so how does that fit with marketing? Well, I'm spending a lot of time creating our brand message, creating all the elements of expanding beyond just lead generation. We are focused heavily on building a strong brand so that we're seen as the only choice, not just a choice in the industry, in our particular industry, but the only choice. We will only work with these guys. That's the main thing that I'm trying to accomplish. So we've got a whole lot of things that are happening, both in person. We're going to a lot of live events. We're putting on a lot of live events, but then on top of that, we're doing all of our other advertising and branding efforts. So it's a lot. I try to condense that down really, really small, so because it is a huge Herculean task.
So let's talk about that. So how do you do that? And I know it's going to be a long answer, but we can take it, step by step. So from the point of, okay, how do you build a brand? How do you become seen in someone's eyes as the only person to do business with, especially in industries that are really competitive, because most are nowadays. So how do you do that?
One is to stand for something. You really need to know what you're trying to accomplish. You know that corporate speak of having a vision and having a mission and things like that? It's not BS. You really do need to have a vision. Your vision has to be bigger than your customer's vision. If your vision for the future is far bigger than theirs, they're going to be attracted to that. It becomes aspirational. You're not just solving a problem, you're creating a better future for them. And that is very attractive. Humans are very attracted to the idea that the future is going to be better than today. And they will come after anyone who has that has a clear understanding of the future. Well, and then there's no way we can actually know the future, but we come out with our vision and be strong, and we say this is what it is.
So what is your guys' vision? How are you communicating that to your customers?
Okay, so in our space, we went from being an advertising agency to an education agency, which was partly a big jump, but what we found was our customers were asking us, well, we like the marketing you're doing, but we need to know a lot more. We don't know how to actually do marketing. We don't even know how to support a marketing agency so that we get the best results for our money. So we have a simple message, a simple vision. Our main vision is we're going to be the best marketing education company for the roofing industry out there. Actually, it's not just the roofing industry, it's just the best marketing education, period, but we're focused on the roofing industry. So that's the beginning of it. We've drawn a line in the sand that this is what we're going to stand for. We're going to be the best. Then that drives everything else from that point on. It drives everything else. The quality of our product, the quality of our service, even the types of ads we put out. We can't just throw together an email and send it, right? That was the old way of doing business. The new way of doing business is that when we send an email, it's the best email. It's the one that's going to contribute the most to our customers, right? So having that is the driving force of what creates our ultimate message.
So I want to get a little bit clearer on when you said you're an advertising agency for the roofing industry, but you're putting yourself out there as an education agency, and then you're doing marketing services for roofers, correct?
We used to do marketing services for roofers.
So now you train them, then, right?
Now all we do is train them. It became the industry does not understand marketing. Most everyone in the roofing industry is sales oriented. They know how to sell. So all their language is around get me a lead so I can make a sale. That's their entire language. And they're running up to massive competition. I believe it's in Dallas, Fort Worth, I believe there's an estimated 7,000 roofing companies.
That many just in Dallas? Holy
yes, that's insane. That is literally insane. I don't even know how you could support that many in the Dallas-Fort Worth region.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's the estimated number is around 7,000 of them. And so how do you differentiate yourself if all you do is go out and try to generate leads, and the same thing happens with your competitors? They're doing the same thing. So you're all competing for the very small percentage of people who want to have their roof replaced or built today. But we know that most people aren't even going to make a decision on replacing their roof for a year or maybe even 2 years. So how do you stand out? The only way is to learn how to build a brand.
So talk about how you teach the roofers to do this. Because obviously 7,000 roofers in just Dallas, that's a very, very competitive market. So how are your customers that are in that area going to be able to get the majority of the business?
So they come into our program and we teach them social media advertising. The thing we used to do for them, and we would still do it for them, but we're just our education side of our business is just growing so fast that we just shut down at the end of this last year. We shut down the actual services for doing advertising. Just because we need to focus. We only have so much time. So we focused heavily on the education side. So we do a lot of advertising in Dallas, and we're going to be in Plano, Texas, and a bunch of other places in Texas. And that's just one spot of the United States where we advertise directly to the people in that city. And then we teach them how to advertise to their customers in their city and how to stand out from their competitors when they're doing so.
Okay. So what are some of the key things that they can do, or that just people in general can do? I mean, I know you're focused on a specific industry, but I always tell people when people ask me this question, can you work within my industry? Is like, well, pretty much, yeah. I just have the process is the same. The only thing that changes is the copy, the targeting. So how can people do that? Can you give us some tips? Because I know you mentioned that ROAS is not the most important metric for successful campaigns. So let's talk about what makes a successful campaign.
Okay, let's give a quick definition of ROAS. So it's an acronym for a return on ad spend. So for anyone out there, if you ever hear the term ROAS, ROAS, it's return on ad spend. And most marketers, especially digital marketers, that's the main metric that they ever measure. Like, hey, you gave me $10,000 and I got you $40,000 back. How awesome is that, right? But they don't factor in all the other value that's created from that ad campaign. There's and the reality is that larger companies don't focus heavily on ROAS because they understand that with their ad dollars, they're buying more than an immediate return on their investment. They're buying goodwill. They're buying notoriety. Like, people actually know who they are. And that's the main thing that we have to have today. In a world of massive competition, we have to be known. We have back in the day, you could just be a direct response marketer, and it would be fantastic. You could build a large business, and that was enough. But all the biggest companies are brand companies. They focus all their energy on building a brand, and that's how they became a big company. Not they did a bunch of other stuff, became a big company, and then they focused on a brand. They became a big company because they focused on the brand. right?
Yeah, I remember us having, I think, about an hour-long conversation about this in Australia, right, during lunch.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was really interesting. I do have a question from the audience.
Okay.
Hi, Kevin and Jahi. So the question is, most people don't want to do the work themselves. It's too much work. So you actually found that people want to learn rather than have it done for them.
They do want to learn, and they still want someone else to do it.
They just
The,
want to know
the
what's going on then, right?
right. The best customer you'll ever have is an educated customer. An educated customer, especially in professional services, an educated customer is going to understand just how hard it is to do your job. And then when they pay you, they don't badger you constantly about getting great results because they know you're busting your tail to do work for them. They understand this. And so we were educating our clients when we were running our ad agency. We were educating them all the time. And then we decided, hey, we're going to charge you to educate you.
Yeah.
And then after that, that became so popular that we started putting our entire staff on the education side. It's like we were just so busy helping them understand their own marketing and how to build their own brands and generate their own leads that we shut down the ad agency. And now we're essentially just giving them referrals saying, oh, go to this agency and use them to actually do this for you. If you wish to do it if you wish to outsource it instead of doing it in-house.
Oh, okay, I see.
They still don't. They still don't want to do the work. Okay, well, I'll put that out there. They still don't want to do the work.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was kind of wondering that too, to be honest, because yeah, most people, even if they know how to do something, it still takes time, and there's only 24 hours in a day. You're running a business, to be doing it everything. It's just not possible.
It's not.
You
No,
have
it isn't.
to have to help you with things. So I want to go back to the branding topic. I know it's kind of it's a big topic, but what are some ways that you, as a small company or somebody that's medium to a small to medium business, can start to try to brand yourself and become the go-to company so that you do get bigger? Because I mean, it's true, a lot of times you say the name of a brand without even thinking about it. When you want to get something, like instead of going to get a cup of coffee, you go get a Starbucks. That's obvious
Right.
branding. Instead of getting a pop soda, you get a Coke. So these things are instilled. Obviously, they're very big companies that have been around for a long time. But how do you start to do that process for yourself, especially when you're a smaller company?
Today, it's easy, right? In the past, it wasn't, because there were a lot of gatekeepers, and the only way you could get your message in front of your customer was to spend money. And one of the things that people who don't have any money tend to have is time. So if you don't have the cash to buy attention, because that's what Coca-Cola does, that's what Starbucks does, they just buy your attention. They find ways to get in front of you, and they spend money to do it because it's more efficient to buy the attention of 100 million people than it is to try to get the attention of 100 million people through what we're doing, like right now, creating content. It's much more efficient to just go out and buy it than it is to actually create attention. So today, we have all the tools necessary, and they're on our phone. I left my phone in the other room so there wouldn't be any disturbing, or I'd hold up my phone and show you. It's like this one tool, your smartphone has all the tools you need. And if you don't have them on there, you can just download them for free onto your phone, and you'll have all the tools you need to capture the attention of your market. You can do a live stream just like this. It doesn't even have to be fancy. Like on my YouTube channel, I've done some live streams, and they're just my dumb face looking into my webcam. And that's enough to get the attention of hundreds of people for an hour of their time. And that's something that you can do. It only takes an hour, and you already have the tools. I could go live on my YouTube channel. I could go live on Facebook. I could post a video on LinkedIn, all using my phone. And I can chat back and forth with the people who interact with that content right on my phone. It's all, and the amazing part is it's all free. We can build a brand right now without spending any more money than you've spent on your phone.
So when you're when the roofers work with you guys, is that part of what you teach them, that hey, you have to, educate your customers about what you do through your social media channels, and just use your phone, take a quick video and talk about it? Like when you're at a job, like, hey, I found this wrong, this is why it's wrong, and this is how you fix it, kind of thing.
Exactly. And we do that. And what we teach them how to do is to capture content, even with something as simple as the phone they have in their pocket, because we learned that they're not going to take a DSLR out onto a job site. They're just not going to do it. So we had to show them, hey, you can still get a high quality video with your phone. Just pull it out, shoot like this, do a couple of things. And you can even get iMovie if you're on an Apple phone, or you can get another video editor on your phone, and you can clip out the beginning and clip out the end and then export it right to some social media platform, right? You can put it right on Instagram. You can put it right on Facebook. And you can craft your ad right there on your phone. You don't have to wait till you get back to your office. You can actually make your ad right there and then send and actually be promoting while you're still standing at the job site. And we've had our customers do this, and the ones who were brave enough, because that's the number one thing that actually prevents them, is that they're scared to record themselves or record the job site or anything. They're just scared of it. It's not that they don't know how. They're just scared to do it. Once we get them doing it, they get leads. We've shown several of our clients that the very first video they did, and it was terrible. I mean, really bad. And they got jobs from it. They one guy he made a terrible video, posted it, and in a day, I think it was a day, that same day, he had someone contact him from Facebook and say, "Oh, I want you to come give me a quote on my roof." And he went out and he sold a $15,000 roof.
Wow!
And it was and right. And so here's the thing: it wasn't good. That's what I really want to stress, is that you'll get better. The first stuff you ever put out to build your brand is going to be probably terrible. But if you keep at it and you keep working at it, you will get good. But even with terrible, you're still better than your competition, because your competition's not doing it at all.
So guys, in about, I would say, 7 minutes, you can actually hop on video with Tim yourself and ask any questions that you want. We just had a question come in. It's kind of funny. They want to know, can you define terrible? How bad was this video?
Okay, so try to put it in context. He's about in his late 50s, had never filmed anything ever before, used his Android phone, and I think it was like a 3 or 4 year old phone, so it wasn't top of the line phone. And he did the selfie cam, the front facing camera, which is lower quality than the other side. And he did not look into the actual lens. He looked into the phone itself and looked at his own face for almost 3 minutes of him talking about talking about how to know when your roof needs to be replaced. And lots of ums and ahs, just like a lot of us do, and no editing. It was just hit record. You can even see in the video the hitting record and the stopping record, because he's holding the phone and looking into it. And then he posted that as an ad on Facebook, and got business from it that day.
It's really interesting to that you say that even though the video is terrible, he at least still did it. He ended up getting a $15,000 job out of it. I've been that person too, where people have always told me, oh, you got to do more video, you got to do more content, more this and that. And my thing was always like, well, in order for me to do a video, I have to do my hair, I have to do makeup. So that's an additional 30 to 45 minutes that a guy doesn't have to think about. So no, I don't want to do a video, but I started to do this show. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this freaking video thing where it's going to happen. And so here we are. And yeah, I think in the first few shows that I did, now I know to look at the lens of the camera. So it looks like I'm talking to you and not looking down there where I was looking before. So I'm trying to look at my guest. So
Right.
Just little things like that you just figure out as you go. But it works. I mean, has this show been generating leads for me and sales? Yeah. Has it happened without trying? Yeah. We're just putting out content and people are resonating with it. And they're like, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? I saw this other thing. Can we work together? And we're posting a lot more on social media now. And there's been comments on there, people saying, please keep them coming, all this kind of stuff. And we just started. So it's kind of fun. But initially, I was hesitant. It did take me a little bit. And then I also am kind of like, God, I got to go put on freaking makeup because I work from home. I don't put on makeup when I work. I wake up, I'm in my pajamas, and off I go.
Sometimes I actually comb my hair. I kind of did before this, but then it's me, right? People are a lot less judgmental of dudes than they are of the ladies. So, like, if I had to look presentable all the time, I wouldn't do video either.
Yeah, I mean, we only do it twice a month. Oh my God, I can deal with twice a month. So, can you talk about some other strategies that you guys also use as far as branding and, again, being that person that everyone wants to go to in really competitive markets like the ones that you guys are in?
Part of this comes down, it is a big topic and people should really study branding. It is important to study branding so that you get a better understanding of all the different things that go into it. The colors that you use, your background. Look at the difference between my background and Jimena's background. Like they are completely different. You look behind me, it's all dark and moody and hyper and essentially hyper masculine, right? And then you look at Jimena's background, and it's light and airy and fits with your personality because you're like really upbeat and everything. Me, I'm like all dark and moody and like I'm the tormented creator. And my scene has it. Well, it's part of our brand, right? We're crafting a brand by what you see behind us. We're not simply creating content. We're looking at how do we portray a particular image. Instagram influencers are amazing at this, where they get you to believe in a complete fantasy life. Many of them do not live the lives that they portray. They're essentially portraying a character, but that character is a brand because their brand is about aspiration. Their brand is the things that people fantasize about, that they wish they could be. If you understand that's my brand, I'm an aspirational brand. And then when you bring in products, you have to do brand deals. As an influencer, you would have to do brand deals that are aspirational. If you came in and did a deal with like Walmart and you have this aspirational brand, it's like, I can go to Walmart anytime I want. So that's not aspirational. But if it was Hermes that was doing a deal with you, that's aspirational because I don't know about you, but I'm probably never going to spend $2,000 for a scarf. So maybe you would, the people watching and listening, maybe you would spend $2,000. Well, you would resonate with an influencer who built an aspirational brand. With Contractor Dynamics, we're building sort of a brotherhood brand. We're focused on building, because our market is 99.9% men. There are women moving into roofing, and more power to them. And I'd love to be able to market more to them. But we know who our customer is. It's men. So we're trying to put forth the idea of not only are you doing marketing, learning marketing, but you're joining a brotherhood. You're joining a group of people that are going to support each other and help each other through not just the good times, but the really hard times that always comes through doing hard work like roofing.
So we have a question from the audience.
Okay.
The topic of the show is the secret recipe for highly successful marketing. So is the secret branding and everything that entails within that?
Yes, that, and so I'm super glad someone actually brought that up, because it was kind of clickbait, because the secret is you build a brand, and it's like, oh wow, that's pretty vague, right? But we all know great brands. We see them, but have you actually studied what makes them? That's what you need to become. If you want to create great marketing, you have to become a student of great brands, not just students of marketing, because a lot of people on the internet, the only marketing they study is from other internet marketers, and they end up in this little microcosm of knowledge when you can actually look at the largest brands in the world. I was actually just having this conversation with my daughter about one of the most successful marketing campaigns ever in modern history was the iPod. When the iPod came out, there were other MP3 players. Most people have no idea that there were other MP3 players before the iPod. Most people have no idea. They're like, oh, Apple invented the MP3 player. No, the MP3 player had been out for like 5 to 7 years before the iPod. But what made the difference was design. It was beautifully designed with this completely unique disc that you use to move around it, where all the other MP3 players had buttons, like really small buttons. They were really hard to use. This thing had this, it was white, bright white, and it had this awesome white dial. They'd never seen anything like it except for maybe from the movie 2001 Space Odyssey, right? They'd never seen anything like this before. And the message was 1,000 phones in your pocket. Today, you're like, just 1,000? Like, I've got like 100 million songs available to me right now. Like I got Amazon Unlimited, Music Unlimited. I think I've got access to several million songs right now, and I can carry that with me everywhere. But at that time, MP3 players were sold on how much storage it had. And the storage was small, but when you were telling a customer, this thing has 64 megabytes of storage, and what does that even mean? It doesn't mean anything to anyone. But Apple came out completely branding everything. The message, 1,000 songs in your pocket, that is easily comprehensible. Then they said, then they put it in this gorgeous packaging. That's branding also. The way it looks, because all the other MP3 players out there looked either like toys or they looked like these complex machines that no one knew how to use. But this thing came out and it was sleek and just captured your attention. All of those pieces equal branding.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I guess in a smaller way, we've been doing a lot of branding on LinkedIn for our clients, because the first thing that we always do on everybody, and some people's profiles are really good, but we still have to add, copy and images that are going to make them stand out more, because I've noticed that, when you have a profile written, for example, in a way that it's just like a resume, kind of blends in with everybody else, even if your credentials are amazing, 10% of the people that you reach out to are going to actually accept your request to connect. If we then optimize your profile, we put a nice header image, you have a nice headshot, the copy on your profile is not like a resume, it's more like what value do you provide, and what are the results of that. When your copy is based on that on your profile, we see acceptance rates between 20 to 45% of everybody that
Wow.
we reach out to. And the only thing that changes is just those things. That's it. We're targeting the same people. And I've seen this over and over again. So sometimes if somebody, wants to keep their copy when they become a client, or they try to challenge me on something, I'm like, listen, we'll do it your way. You're going to get about 10%. Then once that happens, I get to do it my way. And then we're good.
and and everything that you're doing is branding. What you're doing is highlighting what they're already good at, but
Exactly.
in a way that matters to their prospect, to their market. That is the epitome of branding.
Right. I would say, from the way I understand it, is branding is, being congruent with your message and also your look and feel across all the platforms. And also being very consistent and being consistent with your content. Because I actually, now that I'm being more consistent recently, I actually had somebody reach out to me the other day, and they were like, hey, I have this person that I want them to work with you. Now, he's actually never worked with me, but he was like, I know you're the best at what you do. How does he know that? He's never been a customer. But it's just
Right.
stuff I've been putting out that he's got this perception. I mean, I am, I'm just, but but he's got the right perception. But it's just the stuff that you put out there gives people this perception. So we have a question too from the audience. Let me make sure I can read it good here. How did you decide to focus on the roofing industry? Like, imagine if you have industry knowledge of the specific industry you want to focus on. Is that why you decided on roofing, or how did that come about?
Okay, so the name of the company is Contractor Dynamics, not Roofer Dynamics or Roofing Dynamics. It should be. It should be today, but it was Contractor Dynamics, and it used to serve the entire construction industry, which is why I invested in it. That's what I wanted from it. But the market came and told us who our customer was, because all of a sudden it was like 2 years, just under 2 years ago, over 80% of our customers were roofers, and it happened like that. It was super fast. So we went from having a whole wide range of construction companies to just almost exclusively roofers in a small amount of time. The market told us who we were. That's literally how we chose, was that the market chose us. We were doing work, and the people who resonated the most with what we did were roofers. And so we just finally said, I guess we serve roofers only. We could, like everything, like at the start of this conversation, we could do what we do for any construction industry. We could actually do it for any industry. But our market told us who we should serve. That's how we chose. But a lot of people choose simply through domain knowledge. You were in an industry, you understand it, you understand their problems, and when you understand problems, you can create solutions. And that's how most people find where they need to be, is that they learn about a problem and then they figure out how to solve that problem for people.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. That's kind of how I figured out some of my own clients too. Initially, starting out, I could do marketing for anybody. It's just a matter of, putting the same process across, different things. And so what happened was I had really good success in some specific industries, and one of them was medical device. So we ended up doing a ton of work. We still do a ton of work in the medical field, and we have people that are like, hey, we want to work with you guys because you understand us, you understand our industry. So that's a big thing for people too. When you're niche like that, they feel more confident in your abilities because they feel like you understand them because you have experience in their industry. So that tends to work really well. But it did take a little bit of time to figure out, who that would be for us.
Well, and it does. It takes everybody time. Look at Apple. Going back to using Apple as an example, Apple took a long time before they understood that they were in the consumer electronics business. They weren't in the computer business. Do they still make computers? Yes, they do. But their computers are aimed at consumers. They are a consumer electronic device manufacturer. And as we're seeing, they're moving away from even that they are actually a consumer, probably more of a consumer communications platform, or even an economy of its own. They're moving to something even bigger. But it took them a long time because they started off in the personal computing space, where all their other competitors stayed personal computing companies. But what made the transition from this smaller business that nearly went under, that was almost gone, from being nearly bankrupt to being one of the wealthiest companies ever, was the fact that they understood what business they were really in. And it took them a long time to find out what that was.
Yeah, it's true. But I mean, I guess it's just like business. Everything always takes longer than you think it's going to take. So yeah, I mean, for us, I mean, we've got a few areas that we're in, but it's specific to that. Like, we've got marketing agencies that we work with. There's a specific service for them. And then there's the medical guys. And then there's also furniture stores that we work with as well, on a completely separate, type of marketing. Each person has like the one thing that we do for them. But it took, I mean, I've been in business 8 years. It took almost that long to figure it out. So, okay, so Tess has a question. So, Tess, if you want to go live, can you unmute her? So, Tess, you're unmuted if you want to go ahead and ask your question. You're muted again. Let's see. There we go.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay. I'm a freelance writer right now. I've worked in various industries. I've kind of that type of, my roots are grounded in software, but I've branched into everything from aerospace to dog training to, hardware and everything in between, and medical.
Okay.
How do you brand yourself when you're so diverse?
Well, the easy way is to stop being diverse. That's going back to your roots might be the quickest way to differentiate yourself.
Yeah.
So being diverse means you need to be a specialist in a particular problem. So what do all those different industries have in common with each other? Like, what is it that you solve for them? That might be the thing, that specialty might be your differentiator. But if you can figure out that differentiator and a particular industry, then it makes it even easier for people to understand, yes, Tess is for me.
I see. Yeah, I my focus is content marketing, and I can help brands help brands differentiate themselves, but I have trouble doing it for myself. If that makes any sense.
Yes, it does. It's one of the number one things that, because I do a lot of work with agencies, and it's the number one thing that I work to solve with them, is that they're afraid to differentiate themselves. They take on any business that exists out there because of the fact that they're scared to lose business. And the fact that they're scared to lose business is what's actually keeping them from becoming a great business.
Interesting. So it's kind of fear-based, and it's cyclical as well.
Correct. So you took on all these other projects because you were in a scarcity mindset. And that's not just you, Tess. That's 99.9% of humanity. We as humans are wired to believe that there is no abundance. That's why we, accumulate everything, because we're afraid to not have stuff. It's wired into our genes. But knowing that doesn't mean we have to succumb to it. Well, if we specialize, if we actually know exactly what problem we solve, we're able to tap into the abundance. Because in software, how many software companies are there?
Yeah, millions.
Exactly. Well, then how many of those millions do you need to make several $100,000 a year in personal income?
Right. Just a handful or
Just a
even a
handful.
couple. Yeah.
Yeah, my philosophy is little hinges swing big doors. I heard this early in my career, and what it means is a handful of clients that pay you a lot of money swings a massive door for you, which is a big bank account. It's you can just do the math. If I wanted to make $100,000 a year in personal income, and I was a writer, well then if I got 10 clients to pay me $10,000, whether that's in a single week or it was through the course of an entire year, I would earn 100 grand for that writing. Just 10.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it transformed my life. That phrase, little hinges swing big doors, when I heard it, it changed the way I viewed client work from that point on.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Tess.
Awesome. So if anybody else wants to go live and ask your questions, well, we still have Tim. We've got another 10, 15 minutes max. So if anybody else wants to ask your question, just let us know and we will get you live. I think we had another one come in. Okay, never mind. So that was Tessa's question. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Tim, because you get so caught up in thinking I need to take on anything, any and every project, and some projects are just not fun. So just work with the clients that you resonate with, that you can help, and then your life will be so much better.
Definitely. And so if part of this is what you need to do is when you're building your brand and you stand for something, going back to what I said earlier, like when you stand for something and you say, this is what I do and what I'm capable of achieving for others. And that's your consistent message. Say it over and over and over again to the world, then it will help the people who see that message to self-select. And then like you faced, Jimena, where a guy who's never even worked with you is like, you're the best. So that's what happens. Why do we buy Nike versus Adidas? Why do we buy Apple versus Samsung? Why do we purchase the things that we purchase? It's because we feel that brand is understands who we are. We feel an affinity towards it. That's what we have to do, even as professional service providers. We have to do that for our industry. We have to have them feel like we truly understand them. We get what they want out of life, and we can help them achieve it.
That's true. And that also makes people less price conscious as well. And some people, they just want the best anyway. So if you charge too little, they're not going to take you seriously. So there's that fine line between that as well.
It signals that you're not the best. When you don't charge a high enough fee, it signals that you are not the best.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for example, I'll buy stuff that is way too expensive for what it is. But I'm like, what's the best? I need to have the best, so whatever. So, man, we've talked about a lot of different things about branding. So I just kind of want to recap a little bit about what we've talked about so far, especially for anybody that's joined a little bit late. So the big secret to really effective marketing is to create a brand. And obviously there's a lot of ways to do that. The bigger companies, the way that they'll do that is by just throwing a lot of money and getting attention from millions of people. That's where you see, TV commercials, they sponsor big events, all this kind of stuff. But when you're a smaller company, great things that you can use at your fingertips is the ability to connect with your customers using video and using social media. And even if you're scared, even if you don't think it's going to be that good, just show your expertise to your audience and let them decide for themselves if you're somebody they want to work with. You'll be surprised at the kind of response that you might be able to make. And I really do love that, because it's so true. I mean, there's so many people watching that you don't even know are watching you on social media. So you can get a lot of business by not even really trying that much. Well, you're trying a little bit. So I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, you definitely have to try. But the thing is so with social media, I want to jump on that before we switch over or end this conversation. Is with contractor dynamics. In talks that I've given, I always say, well, we're not even good at the content that we put out. It's not the best in the world, but our competitors aren't doing it. The other people in the industry are not doing what we're doing. And we don't have a massive following. You don't need that massive following. Little hinges swing big doors. We don't need the entire world to know who we are. We just need the people who are most likely to give us money to know we exist and to see us as the people who understand what they're going through.
Right. And Tim, you had also mentioned that creativity is the difference between good and great marketing, and also that you must master marketing math to be able to prevent campaign mediocrity. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Okay, creativity. Most people are afraid to take any risk. They will take stock photos. They won't go out and actually get photographs made. If you don't have a big budget for actual great photography, what I've done, and I've done this for years now, is I take stock photography, decent stock photography, and then I edit it in software so it doesn't look stock anymore. It looks like a high-end image. It looks completely different than the stock image that's out there. And so that can turn a mediocre image into a captivating one by learning how to edit photos. And I've been doing that for years to take stock photography, because I'm a terrible photographer. Right. So it's like, so I'll take photos that I pay for, stock photos, and I'll turn those into amazing images for my presentations. I do them in my ads, all those things. Video, just by the sheer fact that we're doing video right now. I do a YouTube channel and I do a video on LinkedIn and things like that. Just doing video is easy to do today. Sure, you got to get comfortable on camera. You got to learn how to look into the camera and be somewhat entertaining, as I say, mildly entertaining, and that will actually help you to be more creative, to do things that get people to pay attention, because we're in an attention economy. If you can't captivate someone's attention, you're not going to make any money. And I do mean you've got to captivate them. You've got to get their attention, because they're not just competing with, you're not just competing with your direct competitors. You're competing with everything on social media. You're competing with everything on Netflix. You're competing with everything out in the real world. Those things are all trying to take the attention of the person you need to pay attention to you. So the only thing that's going to make the difference is creativity. The better your creativity, both in your copy and your imagery, the better your campaigns are going to do.
That's true. And if you're not creative, you can always hire people who are. I mean, you can go on, like the image that I posted today to promote this show. I had a guy take a picture of me and gave it to him on Fiverr, and he made that. I think I paid like $5 or $10 for it. I don't remember what it was, but that's an image that I can leverage, not just for this show, but for other shows and different things I want to promote in the future. And it wasn't a lot out of my pocket for it too.
I like to say that people are creative. They're just scared to be.
I don't know. I don't think I'm that creative sometimes. I'm creative.
So being skilled at something, say photography, is different than being creative with a photo, right? So you got to learn to separate skill from actual creativity. Creativity is the idea, the concept, the thing that is going to lead the way for the skill. It's like, oh, I've got this great idea for a photo. Well, then how am I going to get that photo? Now you may need to get resourceful. Find a friend who's a good photographer, or hire a good photographer who can actually turn that concept, that idea, that creative idea into reality. That's what I mean by creative. Most people can come up with ideas. They're just afraid to execute on them.
That makes total sense. And so, so then the other part of the question was the marketing math. And I know a lot of people are scared of math.
Well, the beautiful thing about math in business is it's super easy. It's addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. You don't have to do anything fancy. And so right there, it's all the easy stuff. We're talking 5th grade and down. It's the easy stuff. And with that, the reason it's important to understand math, because we have the art, the creativity. That's the part that's going to get people's attention. But now we need the math. We need to make sure we can afford to continue doing it. And what most people do, and why I say understand your math so you avoid mediocrity, is that most people will say, spend $1 and get $4 in return and go, wow, that's awesome. And then they'll spend those $4. Well, they'll spend $3 somewhere else and then go back and only spend $1 more back in their marketing. Mm-hmm. Well, if you really want to grow and you really want to create amazing things and build a strong brand, you take $1.50 or $2. Or maybe if you truly understand your lifetime value of your customer, you could go from spending $1 to get 4 to spending $4 and getting 10, right?
Right.
Oh, that's even like, it's like, oh, wow, I'm like getting better and better, right? It's like, if I spend this money and then I get 10 and I know the lifetime value of my customer and I just brought in $10, what if I spend that $10 and I'm getting better every time at my marketing and understanding the messaging that resonates with my market, and I spend that $10 and it brings in $100 or it brings in $200. And this does happen. And understanding the math, not just in ROAS, return on ad spend, but the entire math of getting a customer and keeping a customer. If you understand those, you can continue to buy customers just like the big companies do.
If you understand those, you're in the top 4% of businesses, because pretty much 90% of anyone I talk to as a prospect, those are questions I ask. You're like, what is the lifetime value of a customer? What are you currently investing in marketing? What does that bring in? I get blank stares half the time, well, more than half the time. So if you do know those numbers, you're way ahead of the game. So we are almost at the top of the hour. So Tim, I have one last question for you. It's a little off topic, but I always like to ask this question because, I think being a student of life and continuously learning is really important. So I love to read books or listen to them on audio, to be more specific. What would be a book that you would recommend to someone that you think is really important to read, whether it's for personal development or business or sales?
Number one book that I've given out as a gift, it's up on my shelf back there. You probably can't read it. It is Getting Everything You Can Out of All You've Got by Jay Abraham.
That sounds amazing. I've never heard of that book, but I like the title.
Yeah, it's a great book. It has helped my career immensely. And granted, I haven't read it in about 4 years, but I used to read it. 3 or 4 times a year for years, because it's all about finding those hidden things that you already have access to. That creativity that you already have, the connections that you already have, all that you've got is valuable. You just don't know how to access it. And this book is all about accessing these things that you already have right at your fingertips. You don't have to go out and become far more than what you are today to become successful. That's why I like that book.
Can you say the name of the book one more time?
Getting Everything You Can Out of All You've Got by Jay Abraham. I can actually just grab it off the shelf and hold it up to the screen if you want.
Yeah, let's do that real quick, just for the last shot there.
All right.
It's
Come
a
on
long
back.
title.
Here we go. Let's
There
see.
we go.
Get it into the whole shot. Can we get that by Jay Abraham?
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Tim, for your time. There's a lot of really great, insightful information here. So thank you for answering questions from the audience. And it was a pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks for having me. It was a great time.
Thanks. Bye. Bye, everyone.